It's unlikely that you've never seen Alice in Wonderland, the classic produced by Disney in 1951. The film shows the little girl Alice, who follows a hurried white rabbit through a hole and ends up in another world full of strange and crazy things, with talking beings, multicolored animals, and a queen compulsive about beheading others. However, the drawing, although it represents well some points of the original work, leaves something to be desired in terms of the depth of meditation that the book brings. This is where we want to go to analyze the work. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was written in 1865 by Charles Lutwidge Dodgson under the pseudonym Lewis Carroll. Dodgson was a professor of mathematics and logic, and his book is a kind of thesis about logic. What happens if we are faced with a world where the rules of logic are different from ours, but work well internally in that world? We are used to events linked by cause and consequence, by pre-established patterns of logic that are external to us. But what happens when a talking caterpillar says that one side of a mushroom makes it grow while the other makes it shrink? In our logic, a mushroom has no sides, so how do we know what effect each piece eaten will have? The various things that escape our logic make us reflect on questions in our world, such as, why are things the way they are and not another way? Or even, if they were established in another way, would they seem normal to us if they were established that way? The internal logic of Wonderland, the land of wonders, truly amazes us, at the same time that it makes us ponder. Some things may seem silly. Alice follows the rabbit for no reason at all, out of pure curiosity, and this curiosity already puts her into an existential self-reflection that is somewhat uncomfortable. As soon as she arrives in the other world, Alice tries to go through a door, but cannot. She sees a bottle that says "Drink me." Alice, in all her childlike maturity, ponders the risks of it being a type of poison, coming to the conclusion that it is perfectly safe to drink the unknown bottle because, if it were poison, there would be the inscription "poison" on its label. When we see this, we think, what nonsense! However, how many times have we taken actions that were perfectly logical within our understanding, but had a great potential for disaster? We criticize Alice's logic, but how many times have we followed them with the bottles in front of us? The bottle makes Alice shrink, and she tries to go through the door, but it is locked and the key is on the table where the bottle was. She then sees a box containing a cake saying "Eat me," and Alice eats it, thinking, if this makes me grow, I can reach the key. However, there was no indication that the cake would grow. The cake could make Alice invisible, colorful, create wings instead of ears. There was nothing to point to that. Alice's own reasoning is no different from how we sometimes act. In fact, she grows stretched out and, upon seeing herself, begins to cry. Her tears form a pond. This change in size makes Alice think about who she was, as she was no longer the same as she was in the morning. Who am I? That's the big question. Alice tries to define herself by differentiating herself from her friends, but fails, as she doesn't reach any conclusion. Afterwards, she tries to define herself by her knowledge, but fails, because she makes mistakes in the mathematical calculations or in the capitals of the countries. She then thinks to herself, who am I then? First, if I like being this person, I'll show up. If not, I'll stay here until I'm someone else. She realizes the existential conflict that Lewis Carroll brings. Who are you? How do you define yourself? Do you seek your identity simply by differentiating yourself from others around you? If we seek an apophatic identity, that is, defined by the denial of what we are not, what will we really be? Or even, if we seek our identity through what we know or practice, what will we be if we change our practices? How many times, when asked who we are, do we define ourselves by what we do? I'm a lawyer, I study medicine, I'm an engineer. Okay, but is this what defines you, or is it simply something you exercise? And if you change professions, where will you find your identity? After this existential reflection, Alice realizes that she is shrinking to the size of 60 centimeters and then sees that all that crying has turned into a pile of salt water that almost submerges her. I shouldn't have cried so much, she thinks. Crying can have the role of releasing accumulated pain, but in excess it can drown us in our own melancholy. There are situations where crying helps, but in others, it may be a lack of assessment of the circumstances. Crying can come as a lack of action. Alice then, having come out of that sea of tears and gone through several other crazy things, finds a cat. She asks, "Which way should I take?" "That largely depends on where you want to go," replies the cat. "It doesn't really matter where," says Alice. "Well then, it doesn't matter which way you choose," says the cat. To stop being lost, it is not enough to leave where you are, you need to know where you want to get to. To make a decision on which route to take, you need to know your intended destination. If we don't know where to go, what does the path we take matter? We will take any path, we will wander down any street, we will enter any alley of life, and we will get nowhere. After all, we don't know where we want to get to. Note how this work, apparently made for children, has deep reflections. We consider two scenes from the book. What answers are we looking for then? It is necessary to look with different eyes at works that are neglected. An educated imagination understands the role that literature plays in helping us evaluate and understand reality. We need to learn to read such classics and marvel at the same time as we ponder what these great authors make us think. Whether we agree or not, we must always see each other. Where then do we find the answers that torment Alice? Who are we? These are fundamental questions that echo throughout history and philosophy, and which Alice's adventures in Wonderland brings to light in a unique and provocative way. We are, according to the Christian faith, the image and likeness of God, creatures formed in the likeness of the Lord, creator of wonders. This belief offers us a solid foundation for understanding our identity and purpose. The claim that we are made in the image of God implies that we have an inherent dignity and divine purpose. We are not mere cosmic accidents, but beings created with intention and love. This perspective radically changes our view of ourselves and the world around us. She reminds us that despite our flaws and imperfections, there is intrinsic value in each of us, derived from our divine origin. We are beings dependent on God, who established our world with rules and laws that are expressions of His sovereign power and sustainer of everything that exists. This dependence is not a limitation, but a source of strength and guidance. Recognizing our dependence on God helps us understand that we are not alone in our struggles and questions. There is an underlying purpose and order to everything, even when we can't see it clearly. No matter how crazy and chaotic the world seems, God is in control of everything and nothing escapes His power. This trust in divine sovereignty offers us peace and security in the midst of uncertainty. Knowing that there is a divine hand guiding the course of history allows us to face life's challenges with courage and hope. Even when the world around us seems to be in disarray, we can trust that there is a greater plan at work. Which path should we take? This is another crucial question, both for Alice and for us. First of all, we desire to come to the throne of grace, where we will find mercy. This desire points to the need to seek an intimate and ongoing relationship with God. Grace is an undeserved gift that enables us to live in accordance with divine purposes, offering forgiveness, renewal, and strength. We look to the cross as a means of drawing closer to the Lord Almighty. The cross is the central symbol of the Christian faith, representing the sacrifice of Jesus Christ to redeem humanity. Through the cross, we find the path to reconciliation with God and the restoration of our true identity. It is on the cross that we see God's supreme love for us, a love that calls us to a transformed life. We seek to meet the holy God at the heavenly doors so that we can have a deep and personal relationship with Him. This relationship is not just an adherence to religious dogmas, but a daily and experiential walk with the Creator. It is through this relationship that we find true peace, purpose, and identity. He guides us, comforts us, and molds us into His image. Thus, we can choose. He is the way, the truth, and the life. This statement of Jesus in John 14 verse 6 is an invitation and a promise. Jesus presents Himself not just as a moral teacher or spiritual leader, but as the very way to the fullness of life. Following Jesus means embracing a life of truth and purpose, a life that transcends temporal circumstances and challenges. Therefore, on our journeys, just like Alice, we face many questions and challenges. But when we turn to God, we find the answers and direction we need. Our identity as beings created in the image of God, our dependence on Him, and the path He offers us through the cross lead us to a life of meaning and hope. In a world full of uncertainty, we can find firmness and clarity by trusting God and following His ways. If you like the content and want to help us continue, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment or suggestion about a book, film, series, anime that you want to see analyzed on the channel.